she said, drawing herself up to her full height, channeling centuries of sovereign authority. You will not. You will allow this investigation to proceed. You will watch. If he is the monster you believe, your evidence will become clear, and I will walk away. But you will not act preemptively. This is my life, my choice, my risk to take. It was a gamble of royal proportions. She was leveraging her position, her value as the heir, against her father's protective instinct. The silence in the room was profound. One misstep, the king finally grated out. One shadow out of place, and I will bury him, Eva. And you will not leave this island again until I am in my grave. Dinner at Jake's was not a rekindling of an old flame. It was a tense, electric negotiation of a new reality. He talked of concrete things. A proposed fund for Jamaican tech startups, a partnership with the University of the West Indies for a cultural archive, his genuine fascination with the history of Port Royal. He asked about her work with the Children's Hospital. He listened. He was, as he'd promised, just Min Jun. But the shadow of who he had been, and the armed watchman her father had doubtless stationed in the darkness, sat at the table with them. Weeks passed. A strange, pressurized détente settled. Min Jun, under the relentless scrutiny of Jamaican intelligence and the royal security apparatus, was impeccable. He leased a modern, airy house in the hills above Kingston, not a castle. He hired local staff, not imported muscle. His business proposals were solid, ethical, and welcomed by a government eager for foreign investment. He was a ghost from a violent past, meticulously building a credible future. And he did it all while openly, respectfully, courting the princess. He didn't try to sweep her away. He attended public events where she was speaking, a respectful figure in the crowd. He sent notes, not jewels. He learned to dance hall, awkwardly at first, then with focused, determined grace that made her laugh despite herself. He stood by as she performed her duties, his love for her evident not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, total focus of his attention. The confrontation came not from her father, but from Min Jun's past. A lieutenant, a man named Enzo who felt betrayed by Min Jun's abdication, arrived in Kingston. He didn't come with an army, he came with a threat, delivered to Min Jun at a private members club. Reassert control, or evidence of his past crimes, and his current location, would be delivered not just to the Jamaican authorities, but to the rival clans in Italy who would happily cross an ocean for revenge, putting everyone around him, especially her, in the crossfire. Min Jun knew then that leaving his world was not a paperwork exercise. It was a bloodletting, and the final cut had to be made here, on his new ground. He didn't tell Eva Maria. He set a trap. Using the legitimate business infrastructure he'd built, he lured Enzo to a meeting at a warehouse on the Kingston wharves, a place Min Jun had invested in renovating. He went, again, ostensibly alone. Eva Maria knew something was wrong. The shift in his energy was subtle, but she had learned to read him. She used her own resources, a loyal driver who had been with her since childhood, to follow him that night, defying her own security. What she witnessed from the shadows of a rusted shipping container was not the chaotic firefight of Italy. It was a quiet, brutal execution. Min Jun faced Enzo and two of his men. There were no shouted threats. Min Jun spoke in low, rapid Korean, his voice like ice shards. When Enzo lunged, it was over in seconds. A disarming snap, a controlled, devastating strike to the throat, a final, decisive movement. It was not a fight, it was a statement. The remaining man froze, then dropped his weapon, babbling in terrified Italian. Min Jun stood over Enzo's body, his breath steadying. Then he turned his head, as if sensing her. He met her eyes across the dim, oily space. He saw not horror this time, but a grim, terrifying understanding. She saw the monster he had been, the monster he had to become one last time to protect the future he was trying to build, for her. He walked towards her, stepping over the consequence of his old life. He didn't try to explain. It's done, he said, his voice rough. The last thread is cut. It will not follow me here again. She looked at him, at the man who had crossed oceans and underworlds, who had traded a kingdom of fear for a chance at a life of light, and who had just stained his new beginning with old blood to secure it. Come with me, she said, not as a princess, but as a woman who had seen the full, terrible, devoted truth. She took him not to the palace, but to Morant Bay itself, to the secluded, moonlit cove where she had played as a child.